Hi, everybody. I'm here with Monika Evje, and we are talking about a really interesting development in the way that candidates consume information and find your employer brand. But we'll come on to that in a minute. First of all, Monika, give us a quick introduction to you and your background.
Hi everyone, Monika Evie here. I am a longtime HR and TA professional, project manager, program manager in TA and HR organizations. I'm focused on systems and system implementations. And yes, currently exploring and looking at what's out there.
And talking to some very interesting companies, I should say. So if any other interesting companies need to talk to Monika, get in touch now, I would say. Anyway, right.
Yes, yes.
If I'm looking for a job in Glasgow where I live, typically in the past I would have just gone on to Google and that would have probably taken me on to Indeed, S1 Jobs, things like that. But people's behavior has been changing. And I've become aware of this as something we need to think about in TA, in recruitment marketing. And Monika, I know that you've done a little bit of learning about this recently. So give us the background. What's changing and what are the things we need to know about?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been looking at this from the both perspectives, actually, from being a job seeker and then being in TA and HR, looking at how brands or companies position themselves out there to potential employers, right? The talent branding side. So yes, we all have LLMs at our fingertips, at our voices can quickly ask a question. So, as job seekers, as people who are exploring different companies, we are out there and we can just simply go and ask a question, what it's like to work at a company and things like that. And, it used to be that we would go to Google and get, 5 or 10 different blue links and click and explore. And, this was search engines. This was this was searching for answers. And that was great. And we typically would stumble on Glassdoor, Indeed, and read those reviews. And you could kind of go and trace us how we would end up then on your own company career site. Well, I ran a quick poll on LinkedIn a week ago, and turns out that while yes, Indeed and Glassdoor, these sites are still out there and they're frequented by job seekers. The second one are LLMs, are your ChatGPT, your Gemini, your Claude, your Perplexity, and these are actually answers engines. These are not search engines in that classic way of thinking about it, right? So they, we outsource that searching to a AI, and the purpose there is to already get an answer, right? To get a quick recommendation. We are sort of not doing that research ourselves anymore. We of course get some links and some pointers, but then it got me thinking, that's great for a job seeker. Our life gets easier. We already get fed the information. We get the answers quicker. But looking at this from the perspective of a company and your, talent brand, talent attraction teams, or it's smaller companies, simply recruiters, right? Or some HR professionals, HR generalists. That is another challenge because you have to now understand how, whether and how your brand is being surfaced, if it's being surfaced at all in those answers. So while, if you look at like regular brands, consumer brands, Nike, for example, shoe brand or something like that, they're gonna have no problem. The same with like if you're applying to Google or Meta or big companies, of course they're gonna be surfaced in the search engines, right? Because they're known, they're well known already. There's a lot of information about them, a lot of reference points, a lot of discussions around them on the internet. And so this is now a big challenge for smaller companies, mid-sized companies, for small businesses, and especially them trying to hire the best talent. Like, let's just think about how many new AI companies are being stood up every day, and they're tiny, they're small. So especially those companies, they need to look into how they will be shown in search engines. Yeah, so I think it's a big topic for marketers, and I know poetry is also has a component of that marketing out there to the candidates, a component. So I think it is going to be very important skill for talent teams and marketing teams to learn. Yeah.
I mean, there's a few things I just want to touch on there that you've mentioned. So the a lot I hadn't really thought about it in the context that you have around the like going onto Google, looking for information. That is a search engine, but actually, if we're not doing that anymore and we're just doing it on ChatGPT or something similar, then that's actually an answer engine. So what that's doing is it's actually taking us one step further down the cognitive path, and therefore there's a slight difference in the way that we are both using that and digesting that information. And so I guess it means that there's more power in the chat engine than when I'm just doing it on Google. There's more power in the human. Therefore, we as employer brands have got to work out how to game the system, how to make sure that they know more about us as brands.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say that we're getting dumber in that sense as consumers of information. I personally always like to cross-check and do like a back research when I'm diving into the topic. But, for the quicker consistency and for this may work better if you're just like looking for restaurant recommendations, right? You're not going to sift through so many reviews and things like that. You just really want the best ramen in your location where you currently are, right? So, so it works in certain areas, right? But I think for talent branding, this has to be more meticulous, okay? And so what I've learned, first of all, the name change. We had SEO, search engines optimization. We have now GEO, right? So go out there and research your GEO, Generative Engine Optimization. And luckily, there is already research showing what sort of steps you should take as a talent branding person or marketer to put your company and your brand out there in the search engines, because it seems like it's a black box. It seems like we should trust it. Of course, if it's that ramen restaurant, we will trust that it looked at all the reviews and information out there and gave us the best one. But with those reviews, I always wonder, like, it's the best for the masses, perhaps? Is it the best for me? Maybe I have some specific preferences, right? Maybe I don't like spicy food, while everyone does. So it's always taken with the grain of salt. So since we're losing a little bit of the control of that black box, what's happening behind it? Luckily, people are putting that research out there. What is already working for LLMs? How are they assessing the information, and how are they bringing that result already in front of you? Right. So that is called the GEO, and within that whole scope, and by no means I'm not a marketer or talent or branding person and specialist, but what I learned is that to start, I would say, do an audit, right? Go open like an incognito window, open different LLMs, at least 3 or 4, and do a scan, do a simple question. Let's say, like, what is the best ATS out there for small or medium-sized companies, right? And you can check if your ATS is out there, right? If your let's say, I don't want to name names, but let's say if you're greenhouse, you will most likely be shown out there in the results. But if you're a smaller player, you may not. So check what the search engines currently on this day know about you and your brand. Run different queries, different prompts, and take screenshots and save that, right? Next, one key component is that's this new thing. It's called llms.txt file. And that is something that all the talent brands and brands out there should start implementing into their websites and the back end of the websites. llms.txt file. That .txt file, it's sort of like a markdown file. If you're starting to explore AI, you should be learning about the markdown files a little bit more, and it will have description specific way, the specific way that LLMs try to like to consume information, and you can easily build those .txt files. I actually have some great examples, so please reach out. I will point you to, there's this beautiful website that explains in detail how to build that .txt file and gives a really good example. Yeah, so then start implementing things like that, things where your brand will be described in a way that LLMs like it to see it and consume. Then probably after a month or two or a quarter, measure your results, right? Measure your results, run the same queries in LLMs and see if anything has changed. If you have budget to spend, there are already companies that will, have you build like a profile and like check on the branding. How are you being positioned? How are you being shown? What each LLM knows about you, and what is the likelihood that your brand or talent brand is being shown to folks out there searching. Yeah.
Lots of very interesting things for people to follow up with there. One of the things that I'm reminded of is, so, I mean, at Poetry, we have a competitor analysis solution where, like, the recruiter, let's say I'm going to be talking to a candidate who works for Aviva, and I want to know what's it like to work at Aviva and what's it like at Aviva versus the company that I'm representing. I can go into Poetry and go into competitive criteria, and it gives me the side-by-side, your company versus that one. And so it gives me the talking points for how I can convince that candidate that they should be interested in taking my call or accepting the job or whatever. We show all of our sources in there, and a lot of the sources are things like Glassdoor. But really interestingly, it's not the traditional recruiting sources that recruitment marketers know all about. Things like Reddit and things like that often appear very high in where
I've
LLMs
actually
consume.
heard the same thing about Reddit. I haven't been really using it that much, but I've heard Reddit is a very liked among LLMs to go through, and who knows, partially I think it's garbage out there, to be honest, but it has certain power. I think it is that the weighted average of the sources, it's Reddit, but for talent branding, actually it will be blind.com, I believe. It's the blind reviews. It's not Glassdoor. It's the ones that you have to put your work email, authenticate. I'm not sure if you heard about it, but in the US, it's a big one. Blind, blind but honest reviews. Yep. So those things, the talent branding teams need to look at and how to influence or feed, provide the right information to those LLMs that go and crawl through all those reviews.
Well, that's a great tip and an immediate action for me. We'll get on that, because if we're not using Blind for like our competitor analysis solution and things like that, we need to be pointing at that as well as pointing at some of the other places that we are. Monika, thank you very much for sharing that knowledge. It's been great to learn from you, and I hope people have found this interesting and they're going to get on with it. Make a start at like learning more about how candidates doing this, learning about your brand and finding brands and finding out if they'd like to work with your company. And as Monika said, I think reach out with questions and things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was lovely chatting with you, Adam, as always. And yes, please do reach out, connect with me on LinkedIn. My DMs are open. I am more than happy to share what I've learned and bring you on this journey and help you influence how you can win the best talent out there.
Wonderful. Good to see you. Bye for now.
Thank you. Cheers.